Well, I must admit, I'm impressed. You actually clicked on the video. Now, it very well could be my amazing marketing skills that got you here, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Actively looking to learn more about super isn't the most common thing, especially among young Australians. You know, I was actually going to start this video by saying the most important thing by far when it comes to superannuation is simply paying attention to it. But the fact that you're here watching this video already means you're on the right track. So in today's video, which is the fourth installment of our mini-series, the Financial Wellbeing Checklist, we're going to go through the specific steps you need to follow to ensure that you make the most of your superannuation. But just before we get into the content, I have to ask if any of you guys find any value in what we talk about here today, please go down and gently tap the like button, as this not only helps push our channel to much wider audiences, but it also lets us know that you're enjoying what we're doing here. Now, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to superannuation. So let me just preface this video with two things. Number one, you may feel as though you have some side questions to what we talk about here today, or you may feel that certain topics just need a little bit more explanation. So if there's anything at all that you feel wasn't addressed properly or you would like some further clarification on, please do not hesitate to pop your questions in the comment section below. Either myself or Alan will definitely reply to you and hopefully we'll be able to assist. And this brings me to the second thing that I wanted to preface. We are not financial advisors, nor is any of the content in this video supposed to be taken as financial advice. So if you have any questions about your specific personal circumstances, it's probably best to approach a professional in regards to this. And in these cases, we would highly recommend that you reach out to someone with the right qualifications. Okay, but now that that's out of the way, let's jump into it. Now, some of you, like myself a few years ago, may have a very limited understanding of what super is and exactly how it works. And that's totally fine. But today is the day that all changes. If you're anything like me, you were probably first introduced to super when you got your first job. You may remember filling out your tax file declaration, and then there's the form that has to do with superannuation. And like me, you probably just ticked the box and said you were happy to go with whoever the employer recommended. And then that was it. You probably didn't think about super until your next job and filling out the same form and the same question. And then every time you got a new job, the same thing happened and the cycle continued. This, unfortunately, is the way it goes for many Australians. And if things don't change, there can be some serious financial consequences. So let's get on top of it now. To start, let's go back to the beginning of your superannuation journey. Now, what actually happened when you ticked that box? Well, you were actually giving your employer the right to elect where your money for retirement was invested. Think about it like this. So you can actually take care of yourself financially when you're retired, the government has made a mandatory saving and investing plan for every one of their citizens. This is called superannuation. Basically, this plan says that every time you receive a paycheck, you have to put 9.5% of that paycheck into a special account. Now, don't get it wrong. All of that money is yours, and you can do pretty much anything you want with it as long as it's investing related. Now, as you can probably imagine, as time goes on and every time you get paid, you're putting in 9.5%, the total amount in your super can grow quite quickly. And for a lot of people, it will get to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So with that in mind, would you really want your employer just putting it somewhere without your knowledge, or you really not knowing what's going on with it? Imagine instead that you had $100,000 in your bank account right now. My guess is that you would pay pretty close attention to that money. So this brings us to the first step of taking control of your super, which is simply find where it is. We'll go over some of the ways you actually find your super in just a moment. I just wanted to mention a quick side note before we continue. Now, your super account isn't like a normal bank account, and for more than one reason. But the biggest and most important difference, in my opinion, is the fact that superannuation accounts actually offer some of the best legal tax dodges in Australia. So if you wanted to learn a little bit more about how you can use super to reduce your taxes, definitely go and watch our video on the best way to save on taxes after you've finished watching this one. You won't regret it. Now, back to the issue at hand. In Australia, there's approximately $20 billion worth of lost super out there. What do I mean by lost super? Well, there are superannuation accounts out there that everyday Australians are entitled to, but they're just unaware that they exist. One example of how they become lost is what we were talking about just before. When you get a new job, you just tick that you want to go with whoever the employer recommends, and that initiates or creates a new super account. And after a couple of those, people begin to lose track and boom, there's $20 million waiting out there. And believe it or not, I actually fell victim to this myself. Basically, what had happened was I started working a part-time job, working roughly 2 days a week for about a 6-month period. And when I was setting up my superannuation for this job, like many Australians, I just ticked to go with whoever they recommended and I didn't really pay too much attention. However, towards the end of my employment with them, that's when I started to clean up my financial situation, and I began to really look into and study superannuation. Anyway, I'd finally found my account details for the superannuation account they'd created for me, but when I went to log in, I found out that the $350 they put aside for me was completely gone. This is because the fees that were attached to that superannuation account actually outweighed the amount I was putting in, and so it whittled away all of my money. Now, your case hopefully won't be as bad as mine, but any lost super, especially if it hasn't already been whittled away, is worth retrieving. Okay, so the best way to actually go about finding all superannuation accounts that are opened in your name is by simply giving the ATO a call. I'll put some contact details in the comment section below, and just a quick tip, before you give them a call, make sure you have your tax file number ready because they will need that to go through and find your super accounts. And the other way you can do it is by creating a MyGov account, linking that to the ATO's portal, and then going to the super section and you'll be able to see the details of your superannuation funds there. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the second method, when you go through MyGov, it isn't always completely up to date. So if there have been any changes to your super fund in the last few months, it's probably best to give the ATO a call directly as they'll have the most up-to-date information. Okay, so moving on to step 2. Now that you know where your super is, it's time to decide what you want to do with it. Or in other words, how would you like to invest your money? For most people, at this point, there are really 2 main decisions you need to make. Which super fund you would like to use, and then which investment option or investment options would you like to use within that super fund. Now, just bear in mind, depending on who is paying you, so depending on your employer, you may not have a completely free choice in this. Some companies give their workers a group of super funds to choose from, and others have a specific one that they have to use. For example, I used to work at a university, and while working there, I had to use the super fund UniSuper. Another thing to keep in mind is that sometimes your employer may have a special deal with one specific super fund. So while it may not be mandatory that you use that particular super fund, if you do, you may have reduced fees or a number of other special features. So it's definitely a good idea to speak with your employer before going ahead and moving your money between super funds, because there may be a deal there that isn't available to the general public. So with those things taken into consideration, how do you actually choose a super fund? Well, they do a pretty damn good job of making it super confusing. So to keep you on track with all of the comparisons, there are 6 features which the government recommends that you look at, and these are the ones that I personally use myself. So firstly, you want to look at fees, so obviously looking to see which ones have the lowest fees. The second thing you want to look at is the investment options. So what type of offerings do they have? Are you able to invest in specific single stocks, or are you able to invest in real estate as a whole? Do they have ethical investments? Do they have overseas investments? All of those things are options in different super funds. Does the super fund have any extra benefits? This is where your employer may have a specific deal. How well does the super fund perform in terms of investment returns, their performance? What sort of insurance options do they have? And then what additional services does the super fund offer? So in order to help you with all of the comparisons you'll need to do, I've put some links in the description to different comparison sites that'll help you in your decision making. And once you've limited your decision to just a few options, For those of you who are familiar with the Barefoot Investor, you'll know that he is very fond of the PDS, the Product Disclosure Statement. So it's quite simple. All you really would need to do is, for example, if we're looking into UniSuper, type in UniSuper PDS into Google, and it'll be one of the first options listed there. That'll give you a detailed breakdown of the nitty-gritty of the options, what fees you're going to pay, and things like that. Now, once you've done your comparison, you've considered all 6 features, and you're ready to commit to a particular super fund, what do you do next? If it's one that you don't already have an existing account with, go onto their website, make sure that you can actually join, because there are some super funds that are quite exclusive and only let people from particular industries make accounts. But assuming it's all okay, go ahead, fill out the form and apply for that fund. If it's a fund that you already have an account with, all you really need to do is get on the phone, give the particular fund a call, and they'll be able to set up your login so that you have access to your own portal. Now that you've got access to your preferred super fund, if you did have any other existing super fund accounts opened and you would like to consolidate the money, the most effective way to do this that I found would be to go onto the portal of the account that you would like to use, and you'll usually find that they have a find and combine your super section built into their portal. This will allow you to go through the prompts, give them the information they need, and they can actually bring over the funds for you. Now, if this doesn't work, or if your super fund doesn't offer this sort of functionality, you can try going through MyGov and doing it, but I've heard varied reports as to how effective that actually is. And if all else fails, you can usually find a financial advisor to do it for you. But I'll have to leave it there for this video. There are so many other points that we could go into and really dive deep, but I think for this particular video, it would just drag it out too long. So with that in mind, if you guys did have a particular topic from within Super that you would like me to go into and explore more, leave a comment. If you see someone suggested what you're looking for, like that comment, and we'll hopefully be able to do a few of these Super videos so that we cover most areas. I hope you enjoyed this particular video, and if you did and you'd like to see more, definitely go down, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That'll ensure that you're the first to know when we post any new videos. But if you can't wait, here's a video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy, and this one's our latest video. Hopefully one of those appeal to you, but if not, I'll see you in the next one.